Station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
Tonight at 10, a potential government shutdown could spell major trouble for a longtime local tailor.
And deliberations go late into the night in the case of a former Loudoun County school superintendent. When we could learn the fate of Scott Ziegler.
And good evening, everyone. We have one more day of cloudy conditions across the DMV, and then sunshine takes over. I have your full forecast coming up.
And great news tonight for Orioles fans. The team will be staying in Baltimore for years to come. We've got those details just ahead.
And time is running out to avoid a government shutdown. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us tonight for DC News Now at 10. I'm Tasmeen Mahfouz.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Flanagan. Lawmakers have until the end of the day Saturday to reach a deal, and Congress remains at an impasse.
Yeah, the Senate is working to pass a bipartisan measure that would fund the government through November. But House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says he will not take up the legislation. McCarthy now scrambling to come up with a plan to avoid a shutdown while winning Republican support. And only time will tell, but a government shutdown means hundreds of thousands of federal workers would not be getting paid.
And that'll have a direct impact on small businesses. Our Daniel Hamburg spoke with a tailor in Northwest D.C. who is bracing for the potential impact.
50% of the customers here at J.C. Lofton Tailors are federal workers. So with the government shutdown, their sales could be cut in half, and that will affect employees as well, with less garments coming through the door. For more than 80 years, J.C. Lofton Tailors has been providing custom clothing and alterations to people in D.C.
We might do about 500 or 600 a week.
But with a government shutdown looming, Bernadette Jones says her family business will take a hit.
We expect a slowdown in business, alterations, custom-made clothing. It may be difficult for them to get their clothes tailored during this time because they may not know where their next dollar is going to come from.
They've been through this before, including in 2018 when the government shut down for 5 weeks.
It was about 50% difference in what we ordinarily take in every day.
And that affects their employees.
We pay per garment, and if they don't get a lot of garments to alter, then their pay will be reduced too.
Jones has this message for members of Congress.
Please do not close down the government. It will impact many, many, many people, and we just can't afford that.
Jones says they'll be able to weather this government shutdown just like they did almost 5 years ago, but unlike some federal workers, they won't be able to recoup their losses. In Northwest, Daniel Hamburg, DC News Now.
Daniel, thank you. And another mass shooting has rocked the D.C. community. This time, 2 people died and 3 people were injured in a shooting that happened last night in the Brentwood neighborhood of Northeast. A D.C. police union says that this marks the city's 9th mass shooting this year. The same week, the city records its 200th homicide this year. The violence this week appears to be nonstop, with at least 5 people shot and killed across the city. Now, this came a day after 2 people, including a high school student, were killed in 2 separate shootings. Mayor Bowser cites issues in policing and prosecution as part of the problem.
Unfortunately, we've seen 3 years of our criminal justice system upended, and the system of accountability that we once had and the police resources that we once had were upended, and we're reaping the effects of that.
And Mayor Bowser went on to say that the district has lost hundreds of officers in the last couple of years.
All new tonight, Montgomery County Public Schools is paying almost $10 million to settle a 2018 sexual assault scandal at Damascus High School. That lawsuit involves 4 former football players. They claim teammates sexually assaulted them with broomsticks inside the school's locker room. The lawsuit alleges the school was aware of a long-standing tradition of sexual assaults in the football program and did not investigate. The victim's attorney believes this is the largest settlement of its kind in Maryland history. In sports news, an exciting announcement by Maryland Governor Wes Moore during tonight's Baltimore Orioles game. The O's have reached a deal with the state of Maryland that keeps the team at Camden Yards for at least 30 years. Orioles' lease was set to expire at the end of this year, so this, of course, is a welcome announcement for O's fans. As for the game, Baltimore has a chance to clinch their division with a win tonight. Well, the highlights and more coming up at 11 on Game Night. Really not a bad night weather-wise for baseball. Let's check in now with Chief Meteorologist Janessa Webb.
And Janessa, the weekend looks spectacular too.
Yeah, we're super excited to get into the weekend. Really tomorrow, though, we are going to have gray skies across the region. You have increasing clouds. We have 2 storm systems that we're watching, but it's not a super bad night. There is a little bit of dense fog trying to develop, but most of us going to sit under partly cloudy skies across the region. The reason being, you have a storm system out towards the Carolinas. It continues to track upward across the coastline, and it's going to be Philadelphia into New York City that sees the bulk of this, and then an area of low pressure out towards areas like Columbus. And so that's providing some moisture for Grant and Garrett County right now. Temperatures are not super bad. We are back into the 60s in most locations, and then you have the 50s out here from Luray into Woodstock as well. So not as bad as what we've been seeing the last couple of nights. Even as a whole regionally, things are looking a lot warmer, and so we're slowly transitioning into some more heat for the start of fall. So we're going to put isolated showers in the forecast really through your morning, and then we'll transition into increasing clouds. Folks, we have a ton of sunshine that is involved here in my 7-day forecast. Let's check that out coming up.
All right, we'll see you then. Janessa, thanks. Developing right now at 10, jurors deliberating late into the night on the fate of former Loudoun County School Superintendent Scott Ziegler.
Yeah, Northern Virginia Bureau reporter Max Marcilla was in the courtroom today in Leesburg for closing arguments. Take a listen.
Well, the main question that jurors were left with after the closing arguments from the prosecution and the defense was, why was special education teacher Erin Brooks' contract not renewed? Now, the prosecution says it's because she was retaliated against for testifying to the special grand jury. She was asked to testify because she alleged one of her students inappropriately touched her, and she was going through the Title IX process at the same time as the school district was looking into those 2 sexual assaults by the same student just months apart at 2 separate schools. Now, the defense and Scott Ziegler, the former superintendent's legal team, their argument is that the reason her contract wasn't renewed was simply performance-based and had no retaliatory reasons and had nothing to do with the special grand jury. Jurors deliberated for about an hour and a half from 7 to 8:30 this evening. Then they went home. They're expected to come back and potentially come up with a verdict tomorrow after more deliberations. It's worth noting that these are just 2 of the 3 misdemeanor charges the former superintendent faces. The trial for the last one is set for February. Reporting in Leesburg, Max Marcilla, DC News Now.
We have a recall alert tonight. Thousands of whole cantaloupes are now being pulled from store shelves over a salmonella risk. The recall is for cantaloupes labeled candy. That's candy with a K. The fruit was distributed in stores here in Maryland, Virginia, and D.C. between September 5th and September 16th.
And new eco-friendly buses are rolling through Fairfax County. 8 Fairfax Connector buses are now battery-powered. The electric buses are part of a pilot program to achieve a zero-emission bus fleet over the next few years. Now, the first set of buses were parked at the West Ox bus garage. The county right now in the process of getting 4 more buses at the Huntington Bus Garage. Pretty cool. Great for them.
Yeah, very much so. All right, if you need more shade, you might be in luck. Montgomery County is offering free trees to residents in areas that lack tree canopy. So applications for spring planting start October 1st. That's Sunday. For the first week, the county prioritizes lower income households, people of color, and people who do not speak English as a native language. All other applications are considered on a first-come, first-served basis. The trees are offered through a county-run program. It's called Reforest Montgomery. We've got a link to that application posted on our website, dcnewsnow.com.